Hello and welcome to the meeting room out of office here at IMEX Frankfurt. Today I am delighted to be joined by the brilliant Jo Fuller, founder of the Merry Menopause. Jo, you're a coach through menopause, you're an advocate of women generally, and today I thought we could chat a little bit about something called cyclical leadership. Can you tell us, what is cyclical leadership?
Yeah, cyclical leadership is a framework I use in my coaching practice. And it's something I've developed myself. I'm sure there are similar models out there, but this is something that I brought to life myself. And it came about because when women would come to their coaching sessions, I would ask them where they were in their cycle. And it started to help me understand and them understand why they were feeling like they were, what they were struggling with, what decisions they were making, why they were reacting and not responding, where they could strengthen their leadership skills, where they could develop maybe some of the challenges and vulnerabilities that they needed to tone down and work with or readapt. And it just gave us an oversight. And when you coach somebody for a few months, you see the patterns emerge and you can come back to it and go, okay, so are you back in that part of your cycle again? And it helped them to track their cycle, understand it. And it's about working with your natural rhythm. It's about preventing burnout. It's about making better decisions. It's about ultimately being happier, enjoying what you do, enjoying life more, because you're not pushing against what your body's trying to do, which is have a menstrual cycle.
So just for clarification, when we're talking about the cycle, we're talking about a menstrual cycle here, aren't we? That on average lasts, a month of the calendar year. And am I right in thinking there's 4 phases in a menstrual cycle? So maybe we could just go into that and we could go into the detail of what I want to say you should or could be doing at each of those stages to benefit you if you're a leader, if you're a team player, or if you just work from home for yourself to really get the best out of your day.
Yeah, absolutely. So the menstrual cycle is a standard cycle, 28 days, but a cycle anywhere between 21 and 35 days is completely normal. We start menstruating anywhere between the ages of 8 and 18, average age is 12. And our menopause is when our periods stop, so around our mid-40s to late 40s to mid-50s. So that's kind of 40 years of menstruating, roughly 400 periods. So there's an awful lot of time that we spend in our menstrual cycle, and it can give us a huge amount of information. So the 4 phases that we have our menstrual phase when we bleed, we have our follicular phase as we come out of our bleed, we have our ovulatory phase, which is our fertile stage where we're most likely to get pregnant, and then we have our luteal phase that brings us back round to our bleed. So within those 4 phases, our hormones, the main hormones, estrogen, progesterone and testosterone, are leading at different points, and that will impact how we're feeling, mind and body. So cyclical leadership harnesses those hormonal highs and lows, and it connects mind to body. Because leadership isn't just about intellect, it's about understanding when you're pushing and when you're pulling. So we use those 4 phases and those strengths and weaknesses, because we can learn so much from our vulnerabilities to make us a better leader. So in our menstrual phase, I call that our reflective phase. So when we bleed, we naturally slow down. The body takes an awful lot of energy to bleed, and it's one of the clearest ways that our body speaks to us to slow down. And I'm sure that most people listening to this can, if they have a cycle, can resonate with how exhausted they can feel around their bleed time. And for others, it can be really energizing. So your cycle is unique to you, as your menopause will be. So I'm talking textbook here. So obviously this is to be adapted for everybody individually. But we're called to slow down in our menstrual phase. We're called to rest and get ready for a new cycle. We've just completed a full cycle. Our body's tired, it wants some downtime so it can rejuvenate and it can take us through to the next cycle. This is really how we prevent burnout. Burnout is because we don't recover. So we can push, keep going, and we break. But if we learn to be busy but also to recover, we can prevent burnout. So this is what the reflective phase is. And when it comes to leadership, this is about planning. This is about sitting back, having a look at the previous month. What went right? What went wrong? How could you do it differently? Was there something that you had planned in that phase of your cycle that actually would be better set in another phase of your cycle? So starting to have a monthly reset strategy meeting with yourself when we give ourselves that time to slow down. And then our hormones are at our lowest in that phase. We then move into our follicular phase, which I see as our creative phase. So our estrogen's rising, we're getting more sociable. We're starting to be a bit more innovative. This is a real time for brainstorming, all those ideas that maybe where you've had this chance to rest, all that stuff you've been mulling over. This is the time to bring it to life. But it's also about being decisive, because we can have all these ideas mulling over, but actually we need to make a decision. We need to move them into action. So this is a great week for doing that. The planning projects, working with the team, inspiring the team, but keep notes in this phase. There will be so much going on. So write it down, have a specific book or a whiteboard or something, but harness all those ideas that come in, because they might not be right for now, but you can always come back to them. And then as our estrogen continues to rise, we move into our ovulatory phase, which I like to think of as expressive phase. So this is when our estrogen and our testosterone are at their highest, our communication skills are at their peak, our energy is at its peak. We can collaborate, we can inspire, we can do, if you're going to do a TED Talk, do it in this phase. This is the perfect time for any kind of big presentations, any feedback, any difficult conversations. You're feeling much more resilient, emotionally resilient. So if you've got something that you really need to get out in the open, you need to speak to your boss, you need to speak to your team, any kind of disciplinary action, this really is the time to do it, because you're just much more, your communication skills are so much better. So it's a week to harness, but one of the vulnerabilities that we have in that phase is we say yes to everything. We're really empathetic. We can put everybody else's needs before ourselves within the business, and that's when we start to burn out. So it's harness this energy, but also watch out for it. And then from that phase, we come into what I call the analytical phase, which is the luteal phase of the cycle. So we're starting to slow down again. We're getting prepared for our bleed. And this is when we can really start to think. This is a great time to leave all that really like grunty work that you don't like doing. Stats, reports, figures, forms. Leave all that to this week, because actually you're really focused to start that minutiae, that detail. You're really focused on doing that. So you can really, if you've got to look through reports, analyze data, this is kind of the week to do it. And it also helps your body to naturally slow down and prepare you for your bleed. So we're coming round now to our menstrual cycle. But that phase, interestingly, if you're at home, if you suddenly get the urge to clean out the freezer, the sock drawer, the shed, that's probably going to happen in that week. So that's a really fun one to look out for. If you get that urge that I've got to do the kitchen cupboards, I bet it's just before you bleed.
Just in your luteal phase. Jo, what an education. That is absolutely phenomenal. And thank you so much for bringing it back to, how you can be at work. So I've heard this analogy before, like the 4 seasons, if your menstrual cycle, you're in your winter. So when you're bleeding, when you're menstruating, you've got a strategy meeting. That's when that's when you should think about what you need to do for the month ahead.
And it's kind of a personal strategy.
Right.
It's probably not great for holding a team
Don't
meeting.
take it into,
but it's a real personal assessment. It's like, so how, one of the questions I love to ask there is, how would my leadership be different if I was aligning it with my cycle? What have I learned this month, past month? Review the past month, have a look and celebrate your wins. Don't be hard on yourself and go, oh my God, I shouldn't have spoken up in that meeting. I was really emotional or whatever. Don't apologize for anything. Don't be hard on yourself. Celebrate your wins, but learn from where you may necessarily not have played to your strengths. Be kind. Just be kind.
Be kind to yourself then. And then we move into the follicular phase of creative, and you're decisive. And then I guess we move into the summer of the cycle, which is the ovulatory phase, where you just feel resilient. You feel on top of the world. You feel like you can do absolutely anything. But I like your word of wisdom there. Just be cautious when you're in this phase. Don't say yes to anything, because then, of course, we go back into the cycle again. So you can expect to feel maybe emotional or maybe indecisive, but knowing and perhaps even looking forward to that phase again when you are feeling resilient, and we keep going through it. So for people that do menstruate then, how can they get a grip of their cyclical leadership sort of strategy? What can they be doing to know what to expect?
Start tracking your cycle. Really, really simple. Color code it. Bring it to life by using color. So I suggest for your menstrual phase when you bleed, also known as our winter phase, red. These are just suggestions. Use any color. For your creativity phase, your follicular phase, our spring phase, green. Your summer phase, ovulatory phase, the expressive phase, yellow, and our luteal phase, our winter phase, our analytical phase, orange. And just start today. Doesn't matter where you are in your cycle, just little dots for each week over the next kind of 3 months. And then slowly you will start to see where you should be planning in events. If there's something big coming up, it's like, okay, I'm going to bleed. I'm going to be less energetic. What can I do? You want to manage your well-being the week before. You want to look at what you're eating. You want to take out your sugary processed foods, manage caffeine intake. Get ready for that low energy time so that you're not completely depleted. And then start booking things for the high energy times. And you can just start mapping your work and your social diary and you'll be more energized, you'll be happy, you'll be so much more productive, and you'll be doing less. You won't be cramming in things for a week where it's just pointless, you doing that task, because it's not going to get anywhere. You're going to spend hours on it and you're going to have to revisit it. So you can start planning for your team and yourself and your family around your cycle.
Wonderful. And just making sense of it all.
Making sense of it all.
Finally making sense of it all.
You'll get all these areas that you can start developing. So if you find you can't make decisions, you're really hard, you get decision fatigue. It's about, okay, how can I develop that? When should I'll leave these big decisions for my creative phase, and then I'll work on it then, because it's pointless me trying to make a decision when I'm ovulating, because there's so much going on, I just can't focus. And then when I'm bleeding, it's like, oh my God, the last thing I want to do is, be called to make a decision. So it's just little tweaks to how we work.
And just trust that those phases are coming again. You will have that time to be creative and decisive again.
We are cyclical.
Yeah.
The world is linear. The world is made up of a 24-hour day. And those of us who menstruate, we're not linear. We are cyclical, and we go round every 28 days. Our hormones fluctuate every hour of every day. We are completely different people. We show up differently, and we expect to show up the same every day, and we don't. And it's about giving ourselves that grace and understanding. When we're ovulating, you're going to feel completely different to how you felt in your winter phase, and vice versa. And it's like, okay, I accept that I'm low on energy, I'm bleeding, I'm just going to hunker down. I'm going to take an hour off for lunch every day. I'm going to make sure I do it. I'm going to read my book. I'm going to re-energize, because I know that in a few days' time, I'm going to be back on it.
Super fascinating stuff. And thank you so much for sharing that insight with us. Lastly, Jo, if anybody watching this wants to get in contact with you, how can they do that?
LinkedIn's a great place. I'm on LinkedIn, Jo Fuller. My website, themerrymenopause.com. Instagram.
Super.
Come find me. Google it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.